Residents of Southland mobile home parks say they're being jammed by aggressive real estate firms that are buying up their parks, raising the rents, trying to force them out of their homes. I'm Gene Gleason in Sylmar. I'll have a full report coming up.
The people living in a Sylmar mobile home park are joining forces to fight rent hikes that could force them out of their homes.
They're not the only ones who face rising rents. Eyewitness News reporter Gene Gleason found it's a growing problem as big companies buy up the parks.
It seems tranquil enough, but residents of Blue Star Mobile Home Park are up in arms. They say the new owner who bought last December wasted no time jacking up their rent. In January, the owners say they had already paid their annual rent increases of 3 to 5%, when the new park owners sent them a notice saying that there would be another increase due in April of $129, which for most of them is 20 to 30%.
When you've budgeted a certain way for so long, and then suddenly these new costs come in, paying them exhaust your resources.
Marge D'Elia has lived here for 17 years. Like many residents, she's retired and on a fixed income. She owns her home but pays rent for the space to put it on. She says it's all but impossible to pick up and move, but if she can't pay the rent, she loses her home.
This is a resource for the state of California. It's affordable housing. These are people who are not on the dole. They're not on welfare. They own their own homes. Many of them have bought and paid for them for 30 years. So these people are walking in and stealing their homes.
Glenn Bell is also a resident of Blue Star. He says this is happening all over California. Aggressive real estate companies buying up undervalued mobile home parks, tossing the tenants, then developing the property. Bell has joined with residents of other parks to fight back.
So if anybody was going to come in here and buy a mobile home, I'd tell them run as fast as they possibly can. This company has a history of doing increases on a very, very rapid escalation scenario.
The company that bought Blue Star, Court and Scott, and its management arm, CR Properties, did not return our call today. Its website touts itself as an aggressive buyer of senior and all-age communities. Sammy Taylor lives in Lincoln Center. That's a mobile home park in Cypress purchased last year. She says rents went up immediately.
The people who live in the parks are a commodity to provide them with the money. They call us cash cows. And eventually a cow ends up in slaughter.
Gene Gleason, ABC 7 Eyewitness News, Sylmar.
With sky-high home prices, many people are turning to mobile homes for affordable housing. The drawback, you own the home, but rent the land it's sitting on. And if you don't have rent control where you live, you're at the mercy of your landlord. But as Phil Schuman explained, some angry homeowners are trying to change that.
Welcome to Knolls Lodge in Torrance, a mobile home park Leo Lewis and his wife Karen Sidler have called home for years. But they say they're being forced out by rent increases that have pushed the monthly payment for the lot their home sits on from $395 to more than $1,000.
We are literally prisoners of our own unit. We're prisoners. We can't move, we can't sell, we can't do anything.
They blame the park's owners, an Orange County development firm called Court and Scott, for making rent so high that no one wants to move here and no one can sell their home.
They're just plain evil, ruthless bastards, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm not going to apologize for my language either.
One woman who lives in another Court and Scott property in Southern California says this is just a thinly disguised attempt to take over people's homes.
They're able to take homes from people because the people can no longer afford their rents. They walk away, handing the keys to the managers, and Court and Scott then is in possession of someone else's home, and they haven't paid a penny for it.
At the Blue Star Mobile Home Park in Sylmar, Adrian Aguilar has been here 5 years. His rent has now almost doubled. He may have to give up his hard-fought retirement and find a new job.
I thought that after working so many years, I was going to leave my golden years in peace, but I guess not.
But all this is perfectly legal. There's no rent control on these locations. As long as you give 90 days notice, owners can essentially raise rents to whatever they want.
Now, this really is a statewide problem. There are almost 5,000 mobile home parks here in California, home to about 750,000 people. And only a very small percentage, about 2%, have any kind of rent control.
I absolutely agree that there are some residents in mobile home parks throughout the state of California that are getting taken to the cleaners by park owners.
State Senator Joe Dunn's the legislative expert on this subject. He sympathizes with residents, but says there's really nothing he or his colleagues can do right now to stop the rent increases.
It's legal.
The entire scheme is legal. There's been attempts to stop it, but none of them have been successful. The motivation for those park owners that are really gouging their park residents is simple and been around with us for thousands of years: greed and money.
After repeated attempts to arrange an interview, we went to Court & Scott's Anaheim office.
Can we speak to somebody from Court & Scott?
No, excuse me.
No one will talk to us?
We didn't get very far.
Why not? They won't talk about why they're
No,
raising the rent so much at these parks?
we have no comment.
You don't know what the questions are yet.
We have no comment for you, sir. Would you please leave?
But in a recently published letter to the Torrance newspaper, a Court & Scott official did say, in part, "We are a for-profit business. It is sad to see anyone lose their home, and we certainly are not in the business to do this." Meantime, Blue Star Mobile Park homeowner Glenn Bell is pushing for new legislation again, but he knows it may be too late to help himself and his friends.
The people who live in a mobile home park are not people with lots and lots of money. That's why they're able to get away with it. It has always been okay in business to cannibalize the weak, the old, and the people who have no voice.
As for Leo and Karen, they say their $60,000 home is worth about $5,000 if anyone would buy it. They may have given up on selling, but they're not giving up their fight against Court & Scott.
They have absolutely no compassion or nothing. They don't care, Phil. They don't care. You are fodder. This is a cash cow to them.
For now, a legal cash cow. Phil Schuman, Fox 11 News.
That's what goes on in my mind 24 hours a day. What do I do? Where do I go?
Residents feel forced out. Their new landlord is raising the rent, and many say they cannot afford it. Welcome back. I'm Ellen Lava.
I'm David Ono. The seniors live at a mobile home park in Tustin. Their new landlord says rents are now up to market value, but most residents are on fixed incomes and now feel priced out of their homes. Eyewitness News reporter Sid Garcia is live from that senior community in Tustin with more. Sid?
Tustin Village is made up, David, of 195 spaces. It's a senior citizens mobile home park. Most of the residents here are on fixed income. The new landlords took over a couple of years ago, and they say they've only raised the rent twice, but it's gotten to the point for some, as you're about to hear, they simply can't afford to live here anymore. Each of the residents I talked to tells me that they are close to or at the point where they can no longer afford their rent. Yolanda Calderero has lived here for 20 years. Her rent, she tells me, went up $169 to $775 a month. She's on a fixed income.
I ain't gonna make it because I'm gonna be upside down with the rent increase and that are gonna be coming. I just ain't gonna be able to do it.
The group, Neighborhood Friends of Orange County, has brought in Catholic charities to help a large percentage of the seniors, I'm told, make ends meet.
And we've been able to bring food into these people because we found out that there were actually people in here who did not have adequate food. We were able to get them to come in every week to deliver food, something they've never done before.
So why not sell and move on? For some, that's not an option.
I could get maybe $2,000 for it. And frankly, that wouldn't even get me into an apartment, would it?
That he's raising the rent so high that you can't now sell that to somebody and move on because nobody wants to come into this park and pay those high rents.
Court & Scott Financial Group of Anaheim owns the property. They bought it a couple of years ago. One of the owners, Abe Arigati, in a phone interview, tells me the company's raised the rent twice and that the adjustments are fair for what the going rate is here in Orange County. He adds that in their research leading up to the purchase of the property, a large percentage of the tenants have what he calls tremendous assets. And those are tenants, he tells me, that have moved in the past 5 years. Now, Mr. Arigati tells me that his company offers what they call a rental assistance program. It's a rental discount of 10 to 15% for those tenants who qualify. He tells me only 20 of the tenants here have applied for the program. Reporting live from Tustin, I'm Sid Garcia, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. Ellen, back to you.